Just absolutely. And she looked right at me and goes, "You even talked to me about it." I went, "Yes, I did."
So, given that it's indeterminate as to whether you'll eliminate it or not. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And you know, Dan, when I start my meetings, you always did at school board meetings, which I don't know why everybody doesn't do. Will you join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Yes.
I.
It tends to be a little, make people actually join in.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, when do we start? I.
That tends to be what.
I thought that was, I'm going, so I've always done that. I hesitation,
Yeah.
pledge.
State your name.
Yeah.
Come close.
No, but it is a very awkward.
It is. And, it's
When
like,
are we starting?
kind of like after the wake when somebody has to say something that's,
Yeah.
get it out of the way. And then you don't get called. Not saying that,
Yeah.
had to do that.
One of the best at one of our family services that we had an uncle who had just a crazy sense of humor. And when another uncle passed, the priest said, in preparing, because I had, my uncle that was dying, he knew that he was dying, so he put together a lot of this service ahead of time. And so the priest is there and he says, and Billy's not allowed to speak at all. It's like, okay. It's like, okay. Give your brother one last shot. There you go. All right. I did hand out copies of what I put together to draft minutes, just to give you a copy, Bob? Yeah. Yep. Just wanted to make sure I did. Just wanted to get any input on any changes that need to be made before we submit these as full minutes. I know they're not as full as what you would like, Dan, but. I was deliberately trying to avoid specificity about certain names and numbers and things like that, because I thought that those should not be in the minutes because it would be premature, because things haven't been done yet.
That's fine.
You know what, you've got, wait a minute, if you read this, there was discussion about not increasing costs to the employees. Their costs do increase slightly, and that, so.
And that might be something that gets picked up on later.
Wait a minute, there was something about it. The employees will save money, but their copay increases, but the savings in what they pay is supposed to cover it.
So, question.
It was stated that it was important that changes are minimal to coverage and cost of the employees, but the plan has a higher deductible, coverage the same, savings to the town is substantial, to the employees small, but pretty much covers the increased copay. So there isn't increased costs, and we're hoping that it balances.
I think what this is referencing,
Is the insurance,
is that we mentioned we had two objectives. One,
Right.
try to keep healthcare costs down, save the town money.
Correct.
At the same time, make sure that we maintain a competitive benefits package.
yes,
But I think that's what that was about, not increasing costs to the employees.
Right, because we didn't want to lower the town's pay and take it out of the employees.
yeah, no, so, yeah,
We wanted to make sure that it wasn't gonna have adverse impact on the team.
yeah, the one, yeah, so, okay.
So I'm picturing this and not having been there, which is actually an advantage.
Yeah,
And I heard you talk about wanting not to get into too much specificity. And I see that particular, no matter which way it's read, being wide open to misinterpretation. That maybe just potential details were discussed regarding overall cost savings to the town, changes, not up or down, but changes in co-pays. Okay, because otherwise, if I were inclined to, I might read this and say, well, they were already looking at something that,
As part of our due diligence, we took a look at the impact to employees, to the town, making sure it remained competitive. So you're saying we covered all of these things, but we're not saying what each one was.
exactly, okay? I think bullet pointing that is probably not only safer and better, but knowing who was there is probably even a little more accurate. Because in the end, we are a recommending body, we are not an action body as well.
well, and we didn't make, I put in mine Scrivener's note, although there seemed to be a consensus, there was never a vote.
Because things aren't going to be finalized until October, is when we think.
The rates are coming out, I think, next week. She said early, I checked with her today.
Plus, it needed to be run by the employees also.
Yeah, well, that was supposed to have done.
That probably happened.
Yeah,
So maybe just a reframing of that area, as a suggestion, but I will of course abstain on
You
that.
want me to go back to my notes?
there was a discussion about trying not
Yeah.
to increase. You know, so it says not increasing, trying not to
Right.
increase.
They're very drastically different when being read outside.
Yeah, but trying,
Containing costs,
well, yeah, we'll work with what he's got here. Trying not to increase costs to the employees and not causing them to need to change doctors or need to travel. I think that, yeah,
comma, ensuring it remains a competitive benefit.
oh, well, it says that for, towards a plan form
It should say from.
Okay.
Flip the 2 letters.
from
I've already circled that.
a new provider that will still cover same doctors as are covered by the current plans.
Right.
With the, and maybe there put with,
That was why I had, there seems to be a consensus moving towards a plan for the.
maybe put, after covered by the current plans, that are comparable and competitive.
Well, it wasn't just that we were looking at the same doctors, we were looking at the whole thing, right? The co-pays, the deductibles,
yeah.
the.
It's all a balance.
deductibles.
Okay, and
Right,
You know-
we didn't want to make people have to go traveling cross country to go see providers and things like that.
well,
Yeah, I put in,
You know, we put it out to bid, we had 5 or 6 bids come in, eliminated the highs, eliminated the lows.
I put in the town will continue to cover the deductible as it currently does.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll take yours and the.
Combine.
Yeah.
and could we possibly,
Send
okay, then, approve those electronically in case our next meeting is not for an extended time.
Minutes do not need to be approved. I think he can send them out, and if somebody has a screaming objection, then it's an issue. Minutes do not have to be approved.
Well, again, we'll go back to should they be, but I understand the shoulds really don't matter.
Yeah, no, it's not shall be approved. It's, yeah, it depends on how, you know.
That's what it was. I printed out, it was 3 pages. Okay, so I forwarded over the documents that I received, the summaries that's been, I don't know who's reviewed them in any detail and has any input that they want to provide on this. In terms of looking at the revenue, the spending, and where we are, the summary, and then there was a detailed report forwarded out.
I had a few things.
Okay.
So as I mentioned to you, Phil, unofficially, I
Yeah.
noticed since I had insurance on my mind, you know, so I looked at budget, but I was also looking year over year.
Mhm.
And so property and casualty and workman's comp, looked at the budget variances, which were significant,
Reason for it,
okay?
yeah.
But we should, yeah, and then, year over year increases, I noticed maintenance agreements, technical support, legal, furniture and equipment, call member wages. So I know we focus on budget variances, but sometimes when we're looking at projecting the following year, year over year tells another story as well. So I thought, you know, maybe we could get some explanation so we can understand it, assuming that those changes year over year might carry forward into the 2025 budget. And then the other thought, being new to the committee last year and reflecting as to how things happened, it seemed to me that the biggest expense that we have, obviously, is wages and benefits. And we really kicked that can down the road on wages. So we didn't really know what that total was going to be, because we were debating about COLA increases and performance increases and doing a lot of back and forth through no fault of anyone. It's just it's a process. And I wondered if maybe we should ask the department heads to get their salary budgets in sooner. Just a thought. Dan's laughing.
No, I'm not, okay? It does not matter which aisle, whether it's town, whether it's county, whether it's school district, whether it's state. Whatever date is the last possible date to come to getting that, what the COLA is going to be or something like that, it'll be that date or a little later. It's number one. Number two, I'll go back to the thing I begged last year, okay? And that was, if we're going to get 11 budgets, could we get 11 budgets that were consistent in the way they were going to be presented, so that I didn't have to sit there and do higher math, trying to figure out the rec department versus the police versus the fire, because I try not to think of them as against each other. But when we did have the issue where it turned out, and since everybody in the room was in all of those rooms, there had to be at least 4 different formulas that we used
Oh, it was
between the
awful.
different groups, okay? We're putting the town at a disadvantage, we're putting the administrator at a disadvantage, we're putting the finance officer at a disadvantage, we're putting the select board at a disadvantage, let alone ourselves trying to do this.
Well, not to mention the amount of time that we spent, instead of focusing on the big picture, we were asking how these calculations occurred or how to interpret the statements being presented to us. So I.
So
That was the biggie, how the statements.
Yeah.
the statement, and there is one outlier, but the outlier can still be close. And I suffer just down the hill, love the library, know they operate under a different set of rules, but their presentation can also be much closer, if not a duplication of what we get from the other groups, so that we can also, all sides can more fairly review and value. And part of that was because I also felt like watching, the Lorries and others rip the hair out of their head as they were trying to answer some of the questions coming up from the board, the BAC and others, okay? Let's do it once, do it right.
We can make a recommendation, but I think that really it's Lori and Lori that have to drive that with the department heads to say, look, we need consistency with how you do things. Here's the formulas that we want to use.
Respectfully, I want it to be more than a recommendation. I want to give them the cover to do such. So this is not, nothing against the select board, if a majority of them could hear me as I spoke. It shouldn't always be from them either. Okay, the fact that as an outside observational group, we're coming to this same point as well. And it makes our job and everybody else's job more difficult. Okay, therefore we're not there.
I think with the recommendation, I totally agree, because getting 3 or 4 different formats,
Not even really sure which one it was.
and it's not even easy to decipher, it's not. So, that can be a recommendation, when we push forward with budget formats, they all come out.
Yeah, when are they coming out?
It should be the same.
When is the,
When is the schedule coming out?
yeah, is that coming out next week?
For the,
Budget
budgets and all that, yeah. It was being pushed already, but the department heads didn't have enough time to do it, so.
No, they usually come out with the schedule of when everything has to be.
Yeah, that was discussed at the last BOS meeting.
No, I'm wondering if that schedule's gonna come out next week.
Should.
Yeah,
Right, that,
Okay,
oh, you're good, I just might,
That
it's like,
should be.
No, I wasn't.
As you pointed out, it's the same basic schedule. just
right,
with
it's just
different
when
dates.
the date, yeah,
Right,
when
the
it's gonna
dates change,
start.
that's all.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to adjust a week because of a holiday or something like that. It's no big deal.
but much like the other format piece, it's gonna look like that. The dates are gonna be close to within 7 days of every one of those
It
days.
should be within a couple of days.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I wanna be flexible.
Well, good. It should be within a couple of days.
a couple of weeks ago.
And that's been the
Mike's
format.
crew was doing the paving on my neighborhood. And I talked to Mike, and the first thing he said to me was, I haven't even started to think about my budget yet.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
The planning board's budget is done.
Good job.
You've got the easy budget.
I know.
That's good. So,
But the format that Tina had is the format we've been using for years. and
Years.
and years.
And as a rule, if it's done well,
I can see
Well, it's a
that.
lot better than when we used to do this all-day Saturday budget presentations by the departments.
I will say I always had a preference for that. If I could get people to focus long enough, but there were times I would look over during the third hour and go, well, I think we've lost
The attention span's gone.
Yeah, well, I mean,
They might be sitting there, they're not here.
yeah, no, this, I'm doing it the way we're doing it, it's much better, just getting the budgets out early enough. So are we gonna, do, individuals covering individual departments like we have in the past?
I think it's certainly a reasonable thing of having people talk, specific people talk to specific departments to divvy that up to see where they're at and they're planning to get input as they go ahead.
Do you want to make those assignments?
It's usually volunteer.
Speaking for the other side, I would rather that they came and we got a chance to talk to them, not in the middle of a BOS meeting. Okay? But I also understand a lot of them spend a lot of nights on the different things. And I don't want to add to that burden where we don't have to, but sometimes it doesn't matter one person coming back, it's not the same.
I totally disagree with you, Dan, because the whole budget process got to be where it was a cluster. And, when we combined meetings with department heads, their budgets were out in full, and if you had questions, you could go talk to them. So, there's never anything that is that much different. I think that the stuff you're talking about is never covered very much, but as far as the individual departments, they don't change much. So basically, what's the big change this year? What are your issues? Why are you increasing something so much? Or you didn't spend, like 5% of your line last year. Why are you funding it the same thing? But, to go over line by line, it's just ridiculous in the public meeting because everybody's had stuff ahead
Well, isn't that what you're saying, is don't do it in a public meeting?
I'm saying that meeting with the BAC, not the joint meeting.
No, you want them to come to us, and then you want them to go to the BOS separately, and it's just a total waste of time. Yeah. I've seen it for, 15 years, and it didn't make any sense, the amount of time that was consumed on a budget where they're put out earlier, and if we do every department getting reviewed by somebody on the BAC, which is the way it was done for years and years and years and worked well, and then it stopped. And it was kind of started up again, so that you could talk to the department head and find out what was gonna be in their budget and explain it, and then come back to us and say, here are the issues with the budget.
Roberta, do you think if you heard the information and I heard the information, that we would come back with the exact same report?
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe, maybe not. Therefore, you're eliminating the option, everybody hearing the information.
No, they get the information at the meeting.
It's a very simple one, okay? You don't see the value to it, I see a great value to it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, never saw the value to it.
This may shock you, my comprehension skills are enough. You won't hear what I'm saying, I'm okay with that too.
No, everybody has a focus on different things.
Yeah,
And that's why, having it all done at the same time is good. Because everybody gets to say, I have issues here with these line items. You have different issues. Explain them.
I think if we all have the budgets from each department, we can discuss it at this particular meeting and send the questions back to the department heads to get the answers prior to them coming in and speaking in public at the BOS.
Yeah, no, I just thought it turned into a dog.
We should have our answers before they come.
I
to
agree.
the BOS.
a lot of things should.
I think it'll also help the BOS because a lot of the questions will be already raised by the BAC ahead of
And
time.
that's where I feel like as a committee, and please don't, nobody take this personally, because I'm just saying, I don't sometimes choose my words correctly, but I feel like we kind of failed the process, because when we sat with the BOS, we were going and asking all of those questions when I felt like we should have already had those answers. And we should have been saying to the BOS, we've reviewed the police department budget. They've got 2 new hires that are going to increase salaries by 10%. They're going to save money over here. Overall, their budget's going up by 3%. We're perfectly fine with that. And then you could ask us questions. And then if the department head is there, they can chime in as well. But I felt like we didn't prepare ourselves to do our job to make recommendations.
And I think the budget departments would all have the questions that we offer to them to be prepared for the meeting when they make the presentation.
Right.
Some of the challenges is that we're not seeing their budgets until the night of the joint meetings. Get them.
Or just before.
Huh?
Under a better condition, maybe just before.
Yeah, that has to change. The budget should be out so that we can have a meeting prior.
Right.
They should be out at least a week before to do the.
And if that were happening, I could much more easily move towards the middle, okay? But it doesn't and it hasn't. And I'm not saying there's not reason. I'm just saying it's not.
So can we change it?
So
But it's not
basically,
ours to change.
What I always recommended is that TAs, that when you want something by the 15th of the month, you tell them it's due on the 1st of the month. Then when you don't get it until the 15th, you actually have it in hand when you want it. But also always make the deadline a week or 2 weeks prior to when you
So-
actually need it.
I mean,
so there is a remedy.
Explain.
BAC can review refuse to, recommend anything unless it's in time.
In the budget.
It's just we're not gonna participate.
The problems that we had in the past, there was complaints about it, was that the BAC never had the entire budget all at once. They were always piecemealed, a budget at a time.
Well, but you build the budget a department at a time. You don't say, unless you want to say that this is going to be our suggested bottom line. And, then you get the department heads one at a time and it needs to come under that. With the savings from, the insurance, the budget should not go up that much this year.
Should we get the insurance, yeah.
Yeah, it should be, and, the BOS can put out a recommendation that the budgets, give them a number. I was hoping that, I was gonna try to find last year's budget that had the breakdown. Do you have that? It's like, I'm done.
Usually about the 20th of March, we all feel that way.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, so I was just wondering what the breakdown was. There were so many different proposals on the wage and benefits. But, so the total should be pretty low this year if the BOS intends to do one. So,
I think social security is gonna come up at less than 3%.
yeah, right around
I
true.
think we're at 6 or
Oh,
something like
2.6. Oh, I thought it was, it's 2.9 right now, so,
Okay.
Anyway,
They weren't
around
sure-
three.
They weren't sure, but they believed that.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
So if it's, if that should be probably, the biggest increase, and I don't remember what it was last year.
It was a 2% step and 3% COLA.
But even that varied within a couple of groups.
It did, there were some,
Their police department promotions.
But that was a relatively
Yeah,
fair piece for us to be able to use.
yeah, so is there a dollar amount?
the impact.
You have a question, Tom?
Oh,
I saw your hand.
Tom Coney, as a member of this board for many terms and chairman as well, I just an observation, I agree with Bob. The last 3 years I was involved with this committee, we get a piece with no wages. We get another piece, maybe with wages, maybe without wages. It was just like you described, we would get just a piece. And it's really difficult for everybody, which everybody realizes here, and I think maybe it needs to be a directive from the select board, but we need to have it completed by a certain date. The department heads are department heads for a reason, and they need to do it. So that Lori has it, and she can finesse it or whatever they need to do before it comes here, because it's hard to do a budget with 50% of the budget or more is wages, and there's no decision on it. And, last year we had a 7.5% increase in the budget from what we spent the year before. Overall, the budget increase was about 4.5%. But from what we actually spent, it came in under budget about 160, Bob,
Last year,
roughly at 160, 165. So over what we spent versus what we increased was the increase of 7.5%. And maybe it needs to be a directive to say, besides looking at all the line items, labor is our biggest expense, and we need to really delve into that, like with insurance and all the other pieces to it. But maybe you say, we came in at 160, I predicted when we had that meeting, July, when we reviewed half the year, I predicted in July, I think, the first meeting in July, that we were probably going to come in between 315 and 370 or something like that, 1,000 under budget. But there were some factors involved because we had a ninth police officer in there, we had planning board vacancies. But in big picture, we were going to probably come in at 4.5% or 5% under budget. Again,
No,
okay, well, this is what I predicted. I think we're gonna come in somewhere in that neighborhood of the same factor as last year. Because it's not operating costs, it's all in the labor side. That's,
well, wait, there was only like 150,000 last year, I thought,
What?
under budget.
It was the highest I've ever seen.
Oh,
Under budget.
it was like 160.
Which if we came in $18,000 under budget at the end of the year, we were rejoicing some years.
yeah, well, no, there were
We were
years,
celebrating.
no, there were years that it was good for the unassigned fund balance because that was down so far.
Yeah, but you were finally catching up on that. Again, it's on fund balance.
Oh, I know.
To get to what we need, which is recommended by the state.
We're there, 1 million?
To get, yeah, it's $1 million, but they had percentage for the year.
Yeah, no, 1 million is, what's recommended. That was my goal, you know, the whole time I
That
was
was the
there.
goal a couple of years ago.
No, that was my goal 12 years ago.
But we had cost
When
of
we were at 400,000 and scary.
cost of living increase basically at over 20%. That's several years.
Yeah.
So that $1 million is a lot more.
So if last year was a high thing, you know, hopefully it's gonna be like a $200,000 increase. Well, I'm 300, but with the savings just in the health insurance, that was around 100.
We also had a relatively good end of the year seasonally for plowing. We didn't have the Halloween snowstorm of 2 feet of snow. You know, things like that. We didn't have 4 snowstorms in November, which happened to us before. You know, we got hammered a few years. Hammered.
Scary.
Very scary.
Very scary.
Very scary. I didn't want to hear the trucks go by anymore. And I didn't want to hear them on Saturday anymore.
And can we get jump backwards for Justin, please?
Okay,
You know, I hate when I'm given false deadlines. I always say, tell, when's your outage starting, so that I can have the things in 3 days before. Because when you know people are crying wolf, you just push it along. So though I understand sympathetically about telling the first to the 50th, there is little.
everybody is gonna have a copy of this, so I really don't think you can sit there and tell people that the deadline is a couple of weeks ahead of when it actually is, when everybody has this.
Okay.
But I absolutely understand Bob's point.
Well, no, but the selectmen can say
Yeah.
they needed to review it prior to that. Yeah, that's the date that it's gonna be public.
So as I obviously just got pressed for my own points,
Yeah.
there is little that I find more frustrating than when we put either the department as the town administrator or the town finance / accountant. And we're sitting there going, okay, we'll pretend nobody's staring at you. Can you crunch this number? I'm not talking one time we say, can you make a 2% adjustment? I'm talking about going back to, and I wouldn't mind this being stressed, okay? Part of the thing of having the 3-4 main column types of budgets that we have was when we would ask for something, then it had to be clarified, well, wait a minute, which group are they in, which stuff, okay?
Oh, that's.
I want to make their jobs easier as well, okay? Particularly if I'm gonna say there are hard deadlines on the time frames. Having those pieces set up so there is some kind of regularity. I am hoping is going to relieve some of the pressure in the offices on both sides. At least to have the right answer, and then we can figure it out from there. Because I think that oftentimes we put them in perilously poor positions to give us answers. And at work, I've been known to say, since I know we have some reporting on using a nicer word, I don't need anyone's help to look like an idiot. Okay, when they get asked questions in a public session with the press here, and we're putting the pressure on because they can't follow along with which one of the rivers it went down. Okay, we're not helping us, we're not helping them, we're not getting the right information. So
what we need is a budget in entirety with a consistent format amongst all departments. and have it done ahead of time so that we can question the department heads on it.
Because we all understand the theory of a preliminary budget and a final voting on budget.
And then Bob, to your point, though, to your point, Bob, that's exactly right. And these are department heads. And so, as a department head, and doesn't matter what we've done in the past. This is the schedule. We want it in advance so that we can review it and do our jobs. So we need it by whatever that date is.
Yeah, so the date, yeah, it should be the same for all departments instead of, like who's presenting first.
Exactly.
But here's
That
something
gives us an
that,
entire budget too.
so here's something that is at the foot of the BOS, and they have to come up, I would say, next meeting with the COLA. That was the problem last year. It was, oh, we're gonna do that, oh, we're gonna do that. So that's why there were like 5 different wage and benefit things, because, oh, well, maybe we'll do this. You guys need to give a definite answer on what you're gonna give for a COLA. So when the budget is done, it's there.
Yeah.
You can, if the budget is too high,
But I want to see the social security.
right,
policy
well, that's what's the
to make a
recommendation.
decision on it.
So if the budget comes in too high for everybody's appetite, you can say, we're gonna drop the COLA out percent. But in order for the budget to be formed, there has to be a number, not 3 different numbers.
Sure, I agree.
You
No, the numbers
can
are
also
in.
use that number just for a base too. So to your point,
Use it, and then if
for
it's too
Social
high,
Security numbers to come in, you could say, well, okay, for starters, we're gonna use 2.6%. And then if Social Security COLA comes out, it's 2.9.
That's why at least 3 of us have already been looking at that.
We'll make adjustments, right?
yeah. Well, it's kind of the same as we used to do, health insurance. We get a not to exceed number.
Yeah.
And that's what we use for budgeting.
So that would be the top.
And then when we got the number, it went down. And I think you probably use a higher number for the COLA so that it goes down instead of up.
Well, we could use around 3.
I'd say
Yeah,
use
I think
3.
If you use 3, and we keep stressing, though, people who don't want to, won't listen to the fact that we were using that as a target. Well,
Not
they said
to
they were gonna get
exceed.
3, no,
They're not to exceed.
not to exceed.
Same as
And
the
that-
insurance companies.
That is the best that we can do with the hand that we have to play, but it also could move the process forward earlier so that when there are unexpected things, the November surprise, as the case might be, okay? The November surprise is a blip. I'll yield that.
Today, we've all kind of agreed that we need to put a little bit different structure to the process. But we can't do it, is what I'm hearing us say. We need the BOS to do it. Is that a fair statement? Do I understand?
The B-
We could push the BLS to do it.
We can suggest to the BOS to do it, and then they can instruct either the administrator or the department heads. That is not for you to do. Is that fair and reasonable?
Yeah, well, what we need also to do is have the numbers figured in for any salary because people's longevity on the job and that they're due for that raise, that needs to be included.
In the proposed budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have it up front,
Yeah.
you know.
The more surprises we eliminate,
when-
okay? And then, are you hearing me over there? I want to make sure you're hearing me. If that budget does happen to come in too high for the entire group, okay, when we put all the mustard, onions, and relish on, this is where we were. Okay, we didn't start by saying, what's the lowest? We started here, and that's when the 2 areas have to move together.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think it does us all well as a town to to have it move in both directions, depending on.
I don't know how many people were on the BAC, one particular year, Danny and I always fight about overspending and underspending.
We have had that
He'll
discussion.
spend more, I'll spend less. He came in with a figure at the end of the meeting, at the end of the BOS, the BACs rather.
Yeah.
Stated a figure, and I said, say that again, please. So we did. I pulled a piece of paper out of my pocket, which had his exact number on it.
Took different
We
routes to
did,
get
we
there.
did not
Despite all
come
of this, we're usually not
not
that
one
far
down.
apart on the actual dollar.
Right.
Because a budget that doesn't pass doesn't do anybody any good.
Oh, that knows.
Been there, done that.
Reasonable and necessary and reasonable. You know, but attacking some of these areas that Tina again has brought up, having, fresh eyes, yeah, it's like, some of the stuff you look at every year and it's go, yeah. The workers' comp, the reason it has varied is, we've gotten like rebates, or, like one time, so it,
Prior years.
and yeah, like credits.
We used to call them holidays.
Right, yeah,
It's a
and
holiday.
so the default would still have a number in it, then the next year, it was, because,
Sense, yep.
it does cause a problem, but the holidays were always wonderful.
Yeah.
The next year, not
Takes
so
a
much.
while, and you get money back.
Yeah, not so,
What you're saying.
yeah, next year was not so good.
Could we check with one of our Concord contacts? Whereas some of the larger hits that have taken place for municipalities, districts, and counties have been things being pushed down from Concord. Is there anything that we didn't figure in last year that we will need to figure in this year?
No, it's all
Yeah.
school.
I was going more with the idea of remembering the year when the, retirement for police and fire doubled. Okay, yeah, if you were there, you missed it. I hate to use it, you know, but.
The state used to pick up the tab.
Well, something has to be done. There was a lawsuit. I'm not putting this in the minutes. There was a
I'm agreeing.
lawsuit, huh?
I'm agreeing with you for this.
Okay, so there was a lawsuit when that first happened, and,
Do we need to pause the recording? Is this something?
no, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
This is all factual.
Okay.
Anyway, when the state bailed on it, so there was a lawsuit, I think it was done by the teachers or the education, it did go to the Supreme Court. And I actually read, and I was like, what were they thinking? So they went at it the wrong way. And I said, maybe we ought to rethink and get a bunch of towns together, because basically the state retirement system did a bait and switch. We had a retirement system in Rent. They came in and sold us a bill of goods that this is how it was going to be funded. And then they pulled out. After we bailed on the perfectly good retirement system we had.
And they also under-projected the amount of monies that they would need.
Yeah.
They didn't collect enough money.
So the other thing about the court case was the Supreme Court decided that towns could not tell the state how to spend money. Wait a minute. The state's not supposed to force taxpayers to assume a $5 million bond that they didn't vote for. And that's what our, debt is. It's like a $5 million bond. So, but anyway, the other thing is somebody needs to do something about going to court, class action, that the legislature cannot vote for raises for retired employees unless they're going to fund it. Yeah, because that's what they just did. They gave the retirees a raise, and it's all on the towns. They're not paying it. We are. Anyway,
That is the exact type of thing that I'm talking about, though. It's that bit with.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm not saying, but if that's coming down from Concord, and we're gonna have to at least pay it this year. Forget about getting your towns together,
Yeah.
It's like Claremont, it'll be going on long after I'm dead. You're laughing because you know it's true. You remember the first time.
I'm talking the Claremont case, yeah, the Claremont 2 case.
Yeah,
the Claremont-
so if we could be sure of any projections like that as well, so they could be in the initial budget, or at least something that we have on the side going, hey, here's 75,000 that we shouldn't have to plan on, but do we?
I haven't heard anything about any projections like that.
Yeah,
In
the
fact,
only
even-
thing of concern usually is what they do with the rooms and meals tax, which is supposed to be a lot. And, the highway block grant, I think we actually got more than projected last year.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's what they killed us with one year, rooms and meals tax, that we had to make it up. But the state doesn't come out with that information until after we've done the budget. And actually, I think the last time it was after the budget was finalized, was when that happened.
And that's how we all work together. Phil, I'm dropping the subject now.
Yeah,
No, they've been kind of funny about things too, in that they've actually come up with monies to give to us
yeah,
after the fact. They didn't let us know before the budgets were being set, and then they come out and say, well, you're gonna get another $150,000, you know?
yeah.
And it was unanticipated money that we had to accept. And that's how we caught up a lot.
Maybe,
I think
yeah,
I could add to your discussion. There
so,
was a good article on the economics of all the federal money that's been going out to all the various states.
Hmm.
And they've been giving raises and doing all this stuff like we're discussing. But the federal money's drying up and,
oh,
and they've been using the federal money to offset cutting taxes and all kinds of other things. So the biennial budget is coming up, and New Hampshire is one of the few, because of the business enterprise tax and the interest and dividends tax, that were at surplus of revenues. Massachusetts was in deficit. 3 or 4 other states were in deficit. And New Hampshire's headed in that direction because they've been given all these raises, et cetera, spending things based on the federal monies. So you might see it coming forward in the federal, in the deficit, you know, in the biennial budget, because they're gonna be tightening up.
yeah, they didn't get that much income from the, interest and dividends. And it's been, they're phasing it out at a slow rate.
Business
I don't think it's gonna
prospects,
be
too.
apply in 2020.
Business profits, they haven't removed.
They do, no, but it's real money, and I think it's just an interesting article.
Yeah,
It's an economics type article.
yeah, well, what happens in other states isn't our problem.
No,
The
but
fact that
it's
they kept
interesting.
using COVID money, to subsidize budgets is a problem. But,
It's good food for thought, that's all.
That never was supposed, that was never the intent.
So can I just add this, this is totally off the wall, but you said something that prompted me to think of this. So you talked about room and meals tax that we get from the state. So I'm on Lake Menominee. There's a lot of rental properties.
we have short-term, and we're working on short-term rental thing. And part of it was decided last night, Tuesday night, subcommittee meeting, that we need to do a combination. We need to do a zoning ordinance, and then planning board regulations, but a part of the real meat is for the board of selectmen to do their ordinance, and it will discuss the rooms and meals tax on the Airbnbs.
Because there's a lot of them, I didn't realize.
Yeah, well, they either pay it or they're shut down. That's what the selectmen need to do, because it's not a zoning issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, compliance
so I mean, you
with
figure,
state
you've
laws.
got a house on Lake Menominee and I do. I rent mine out and I use it for revenue. You use yours for summertime enjoyment, lock it up in winter, and that's it. You and I are probably, assuming all things equal, we're paying the same property taxes.
Yeah, the rooms and
Yours
meals
is
tax,
revenue,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not,
So-
so there's a little bit of an equity here.
Yeah, Judy said, she read me a thing at the meeting that, the rooms and meals tax is supposed to be collected by Airbnb or whatever.
Or whomever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then pay to the state, and I'm going, how does that work? Because the property owner that rents that property through whatever agency, that's the person that's responsible.
Well, and some aren't even using an agency.
And they're probably not paying the rooms and meals tax.
Right.
We get a lot of money from that. In fact, 600,000. And the more that goes in, the more we get out. So
Yeah,
the BOS needs to do a thing and to make sure.
It's a state tax, it's up to them, to much more state taxes.
But but, right. So if the BOS does an ordinance and charges a permit fee annually for a safety inspection, then they also have to show that they have paid. That was in one of these ordinances, and I went, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not a zoning issue, but, the selectmen can enforce that. Or shut them down.
I didn't mean to digress, but you said.
No, it's revenue, yeah.
Well, no,
There's revenue on the
be
table.
scared, you're aligned. Okay?
Yeah.
I would love to know what a moderate, reasonable projection is as to what revenue is being missed by the town due to this. And I'm just gonna say, if you're saying it's 600,000,
That's what we get.
okay, let's just use that. If that's the case, and this were
Oh,
able
no,
to make,
time. It all goes to the state and then
And
it's
they redistribute.
distributed.
yes,
And we're actually supposed to be getting about half again that much according to the statute.
pigs are not flying past the window, so let's use the 600,000.
Yeah.
If doing what I was thinking I was hearing, which is making sure that that money is getting paid, getting to whether it is the owner of the property or whether it is their agent that they're going through. Let us say that that could change that number by 10%. Okay? $60,000, okay? Now all of a sudden, I think we have people around go, oh, wait a minute. Let's see what we can do about that. I would love to know what a reasonable, moderate projection is for what that number would be. Because
You have to figure out how many rental properties are in the town.
Well, no, then you'd have to go to how many are not listed rental properties in the town. Okay.
So,
Again, that's why I'm talking going to the lower moderate number there. But I don't know about you, but I've sat here and watched us and been a participant in $500 fights before.
so rooms and meals tax is 8.5%. And they're charging, like $200 to $300 a night, $1,000.
Oh, God. So on Sandback, before the Avos bought the Sandback property,
Yeah,
they were charging $600 a night for one of those properties.
well, we ought to check to see.
Again,
if
this is
Sandbags-
why I'm saying, I hear that.
So that's
Okay.
basically what is gonna have to be relied on is,
Van Dyke over by the convenience store.
oh, I know, that-
I'm so glad we're not using names of ones that we can't necessarily verify here. But we
Oh,
must say that,
no, that's in Massachusetts.
but let's use the 200 to 300 a night. Okay, 8% would be $25 a night. Okay,
Yeah.
$25 a night across 40 nights out of the summer because they're using some of their own property. That's a very quick $1,000.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more than that.
I know,
It's a lot.
again, Roberta, I want to aim low and be a.
Well, we don't get all of it. It does, yeah, but it goes in the pool.
But at some point, that money, at least in some portion.
The
will-
more that goes in, the more we get out. Yeah. Regardless of what it is, but.
Yes, or whose.
But there's so much talk about this and doing an ordinance, and we've got a real problem, we have to thread a needle. It will be revenue for the town, but the other revenue, I said I thought should be lower, and Judy goes, what? Do you know what they're getting? One town charges $350 for the permit
For what?
It's a lot.
For rental?
every year to go to the
Inspection?
selectmen and have
To review,
And have,
to-
a safety inspection done to make sure that the place still complies with life safety and building codes. You know, because people change properties, they do stupid things, and the occupancy load, and to, you know, do a visual to make sure the septic system isn't coming out of the ground. Anyway, it's very important that the selectmen be part of the whole, control. And that's all we can do is regulate them, because they've been on the books for 12 years. That they're legal. And even if we said they're no longer allowed, anybody that can prove rooms and meals tax, that they've been doing it, their grandfather, which is another approach.
But I don't think anybody's saying it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, they are.
I read a great article last night about the city of Dallas. They passed a no short-term rental last year. They haven't had one enforcement of it in the whole city of Dallas. Because there was a lawsuit the next day. So it's all been, well, we'll wait and see how this plays out. The same song is being played. It won't be on that size here.
Well, no, we're going with, and this is totally off budget. We're going with, we've got stacks of ordinances, and we're going with Portsmouth. Very important definitions and language. They've gone to the Supreme Court,
Okay,
and there's hell.
beautiful.
Yeah, so everybody is jumping on Portsmouth, you know, to make sure that you use same definitions was why we had an issue in this town. And they wrote this stupid ordinance, and the more I read it, I'm like, oh my God. But anyway, so that's where, you know, we're doing carefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, how are you?
I'm doing
Okay,
well.
man.
I've got two last items. One is I want to suggest, because it looks open on the calendar, 17th of October for our next meeting. That's the third Thursday in October. So if everybody's holding their patterns, we should be able to jump in there.
October 7th.
October 17th, yeah, Thursday the 17th.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be prepared to meet, you know, more often, as soon as the schedule comes out. You know, because that.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, I agree, but I just wanted to make sure we at least get this put in
okay.
now.
Yep.
The other thing was that I did hear from Rachel, and she was saying she is planning to recommend the 10th officer. She said she's planning to suggest that she could hold it till mid-year so that it wouldn't be as big an impact on budget. But she did let me know that, so I wanted to share that with the rest of the people on the budget committee. It's put it in the context of, as we're getting ready for budget season, I want to give you a heads up, so I'm sharing the information. Surprise down the road
So
for
going
anybody.
back, you know, you kind of ignored your request and went around in a million different directions. Do you want us speaking to every department head individually, or are we going to totally different?
It wasn't that I went chasing after her, just we happened to be talking.
No, I'm
last
just
week.
saying, going back to
Something
the
she brought
initial
up.
conversation about, do you want us to do
Yeah,
that?
it was,
or-
it's in the minutes, and it says, are we going to assign departments? And it kind of,
And then
went
from there,
south. then we went,
I think we touched all those areas in the
It
solar
it
system.
shifted to, well, it should be, you know, people should volunteer for different departments.
yeah, Dan and Roberta disagreed about the budget process.
We can leave that as a standing.
That's a standing, yes.
We're missing two of our members, the volunteer positions, that puts all of the burden upon 5 members that are here.
Right.
I don't remember, what Casey did last year.
I don't know how it's, so.
I don't remember. I talked to Mike.
I know, Dan, you were setting up something for you and I to talk with someone, I can't even remember. which department.
I can't.
You did the town. Awesome.
So we had the volunteers, but they didn't do
Something close to
it.
that.
Okay.
Oh, no, I talked to Mike and
Yeah.
you went over
It's all
the,
the time.
the town office budget.
I think we're trying to get Casey to talk to Rick.
That's not appropriate at all.
No,
Now, again, be warned, okay? Where's the win there? Okay? You're putting both of them in an ugly,
Yeah,
uncomfortable
it's not
position.
appropriate.
I'm just trying to remember how it ran last year, so.
Yeah. No.
It would almost be better to have any other set of
Carl
vehicles.
said he talked, and I thought that was inappropriate too.
To talk to them,
Rick,
so you didn't take the BA.
Voluntary, so if someone comes on to any of them.
no, he's on,
Oh, that's right. Both of
Yeah.
them was on.
yeah.
In one of the recent classes that I have taken, a full-time employee cannot be on the budget committee.
Cannot or should not. Okay.
No, there's, no, because, Mike Salicki ran for BAC. He checked the statute.
I'll review it, but
Town resident, I think you're wrong.
I may be, but I just,
This is
And it's
they have to,
advisory.
they have to recuse themselves on their department. But, I don't think so, because I know
it caught me by surprise. I just thought I'd throw it out there. I'll look it up.
Did they actually have a police chief that was a selectman at the time?
No,
Oh, we did.
I
No,
think there was a
retired.
very slight gap between job A and job B.
no, he was, no, he ran for selectman for a specific purpose, but he was not. He was not a police chief at the time.
I'm not
That's
trying
what I'm saying, there was a
just so you know.
very thin gap.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are laws, but, which committees and boards you could serve on simultaneously.
yeah, and conflict.
And can we just go back, certain things from 3,000 years ago work, okay? Caesar's life. You should not have somebody from the fire department being the person quizzing the chief about the fire department budget.
That's why I said it's
It's
inappropriate.
just, because even if it works, if you looked at it from the outside, you'd go,
Smells.
not so much.
Doesn't need the smell test.
Yeah.
So, I'm, it's like I know the highway department pretty well, but, if we don't wanna do it that way, if you look at our so-called charter, we're actually supposed to do that. Talk to the department head, so, it's like, we know what their issues are.
And we did used to do that with her.
Used to, and then it stopped. I said that earlier, Tom.
Yeah. Are you able to read on this? She was saying that she would volunteer to the town again because there's some benefits to consistency.
Right, well, plus, a lot of the things that you brought up are in
In their
in
budget.
that budget, and, are they being looked at? Or is it just, that's what we tell, they tell us it's gonna be?
If we're going to do it that way, Phil,
Mhm.
I would happily work with Rick, because after we made the seismic change
Mhm.
in their wages area last year, with how they were doing it, I would expect, if I didn't know anything else, for that to be, okay, you want to continue with that? Well, what have you been doing with the change that you made, whatever? I think us having that information or discussion before the night up would probably benefit both sides.
The other thing, I think the call wages need to be looked at.
That's the area I'm talking about.
They were, but I think they need to be,
Well,
yeah.
I might like to give them the chance to, since it was their suggestion, to make the adjustment first. Okay, is it working? Is it projecting out the way you want, or do we need to look even deeper? Because, I had people
We can't
ask
afford to
me,
keep losing people.
when they said, well, how much do they get? I said, well, when we do this raise, they still won't be getting started paying down so much.
Yeah,
And you're asking them to run into a.
I think we're doing far better.
we are, but it's,
So let it,
I think that worked.
okay,
All right, so to move
okay,
it-
so who's doing police?
I'll reach out to Rachel.
No, you're not reaching out to Rachel, you're gonna drill her. Explain it, it's not.
Yeah.
What do you want? It's, okay,
I was
explain.
I trust your inimitable manner, Mr. Chair.
For a while, because they haven't even started your budget.
Oh.
As soon as they, yeah, actually, you can,
Mhm.
I got started with Mike, I met him a couple of times when he was creating his budget to go over, you know, like, what he thought people were gonna show up, you know, it's just, so.
Yep.
Tina, do you faithfully recall Jerry Lewis's Labor Day telethon?
I do.
And he used to always say at the end, the work on next year's telethon begins tomorrow morning. As much as they're not working on their budgets, okay, from the second that the two things take place, which is the select SB2, and then we vote on it in March, they're already working on the next year's budget. Because also, how many times do we say, okay, that didn't make this year, so we're gonna be expecting to see it here, and there's always some changes. Don't worry, push came to shove, they have a pretty fair idea of what they would want.
Well, Rick keeps track of every penny, it's like,
Okay, from where we sit right now, Dan's gonna talk to the fire department, Bert's gonna talk to the highway department, Tina's gonna talk to the town office people.
yeah,
right here.
yeah, we
I'm talking to
administrated,
PD, I'll talk to the rec department.
I was just gonna say, so there's rec,
So whoever is left, we still have two more members that aren't here.
yeah, so.
Library, conservation.
Well, but, so one person could do those land use boards, those budgets are all tiny.
So we'll leave that to one of the two remaining.
Yeah, do all the land use boards, so, left are library,
Since we're talking about Mike handling fire and making sure Casey doesn't, if Jim has an intern to do the fire department, I'll switch off into one of the other spots,
land
since he's not here. Anchor.
yeah, so we've got three, yeah, there's three departments left and two people. We need alternates.
What was the other one, land use board and library?
Library, rec, and land use boards.
I got,
Oh, you got. Oh, never mind.
so we're coming.
Yeah,
Two more openings.
Washington?
that's under town, that's under administration.
Okay.
Actually, that's a lot. Well, planning board, you know, those budgets are all pretty, they're simple, you know, they're not expansive.
Cemeteries,
That's the highway,
police.
that's a big department. Actually, fire,
historical.
fire also is emergency management. But
So we almost wrapped up, because it's.
Yeah, it's late.
I almost just want to recap something for the board of selectmen. What the BAC is looking for is consistent budget formats from all departments. They want to see all of the step raises and any projected possible COLA increases included in those budgets. And to get a budget meeting scheduled to the BAC as soon as it's possible.
Yes, with the numbers on the step and folders, not to exceed figures.
yeah, I think, yeah, that's what I've got. I'm not gonna redo that, but yeah, that's,
I don't think this is just my thing. Bob, can you go back to the one about the consistent budgeting and code?
Consistent budget formats from all departments.
And then the,
All step raises and any projected possible COLA.
be available in the initial preliminary budget. Because last, you know, not one of those we get,
this is what we'd like to add.
Yeah.
Put it in.
that's where I'm coming. Good, bad, or indifferent, give me, because I think, again, it It may make it rougher day one, it'll make it much easier day 30 and under.
Yeah,
So any, all step raises, any projected possible COLA increases included as a not to exceed figure.
And it does include like your friends down the hill who
In
aren't on the same shift,
in the initial budget.
library.
well, they,
I know they're not up that much, but sometimes, well, you know, we're not, no, you can still do it for the time frame. Same.
absolutely.
I think we should hold everyone to the same standard.
Yeah, well, it's like, otherwise, you're gonna have to put what you want into a warrant. It's not gonna go in the budget.
We'll disagree. And just-
Some towns do it that way.
That's all.
No, some towns do it that way. They, they put their, it's a warrant article. Budget, funding the library.
That's scary.
That would be unpopular.
That's scary. So,
Some towns do it that way.
No, again, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
you could end up with departments without any money, or a library without any funding for a year.
Anything we need before we adjourn? I think everybody's ready to adjourn. In absence, we are adjourned.
All right.
Well, in honor of you, I've got 2 pages of notes.
Okay, well, this was a chattier discussion. It must have been Tina, damn it.
I don't put chatty in. I put disgust.
And I don't write 4 pages anymore either, okay?